Hi! So, this is probably going to be a really awkward video, because I'm an awkward person, so you should deal with that. Anyway, as the title suggests, this is going to be kind of an earlobe stretching how-to video. Let's do this. So, the method that pretty much everybody is familiar with and utilizes is the tapering method. And if you don't know, this is a taper, and it's a piece, whoops, drop that. And it's a piece of jewelry where it starts off at a smaller end and gradually gets bigger to the gauge that you're trying to stretch to. And this is fine up to a certain point. A lot of people say that you should stop at around a 6 gauge because once you start going into the larger gauges, then the differences in size are going to vary dramatically. And so, gauge chart. So like say a 16 gauge to a 14 gauge, that's a good point. 4mm stretch, and so that's not a big deal. It's not going to do any real damage. But say you're stretching from like a 2 to a 0 gauge, then that'll be like a 2 or 1.5mm stretch, and that's some intense shit right there. So the way you use a taper is you lube it up and then you insert it into your piercing. And tapering should not hurt. It can feel uncomfortable. You can feel a slight stinging sensation at most, but it should not straight out hurt. You should not wear tapers because if you wear them, it's going to be a fresh stretch, so your tissue is going to be healing. So this taper, for instance, is a 0 gauge taper and it's very big. So if you wear this, it's going to be dragging down your piercing, and so that's going to deform it. Like that's what I do with my lobes, because back in the day when I was first stretching, I didn't know how to stretch. I just got a taper kit and just did it, which was really, really stupid. And so now my ears are more like an oval shape, and that's pretty unattractive. And so you shouldn't wear tapers. And when wearing jewelry after a stretch, you should wear either steel or glass. Don't wear anything like acrylic or especially not silicone or organic or anything, because those are very porous materials, so they can harbor bacteria, which can go up inside your ears, which isn't good. And so I'm using an acrylic taper just because it's not going to be coming into contact with my skin as it's healing. It's going to be what makes it big. Also, when using tapers, if you use them in the larger gauges, there are chances that you can get blowouts, which is very gross. A blowout is when you're exerting too much pressure onto the fistula, which is the inside of a piercing. And so because of all that pressure, you're going to be forcing all that back. And so in order to get rid of a blowout, you should downsize immediately so the dead tissue can try and reabsorb back into your lobe and it'll be okay. If you tear your earlobe, then get a sea salt solution, which is about 1/4 of a teaspoon of sea salt in about 8 ounces of hot water. And when I say hot water, don't get like scalding, burning hot water. Get like hot enough water that you can stand. And what the sea salt does is it brings more of a blood flow into the area so it can heal faster. And after you use a taper, you should wait at least a month before stretching again. And so I should do a demonstration on how to use a taper. So I don't have any tapers in the size of my lobes because I don't use them for this big. But I'm stretching my septum currently, and I'm stretching it from a 2 to a 0 gauge, and I've been using tape, and I'll show you how to do taping after this. And so right now, my septum is 1 wrap less than a 0 gauge, so I'm just going to be using a 0 gauge taper and then inserting this. I use a vitamin E oil to lube mine up, and so make sure your hands are clean, by the way. You don't want to get no nasty shit in there. So I dip my finger inside the vitamin E oil and I rub it over the taper. And I also rub a little bit onto the area where I'm going to be inserting the taper, just so it'll be a little bit smoother. And this is my plug. It's all covered in tape, all nice and pretty. Okay. So this is very attractive, I know. So insert this. And then what you're gonna do is take your plug and line it up with the end of the taper. earlobes. Oh my god, I'm so attractive right now. Also, don't worry that I'm tearing up because septum stretching is a lot more uncomfortable than earlobe stretching. Oh, I'm crying. Okay. Okay. And so, line up the ends and push the plug through. Don't pull out the taper. Make sure you're pushing the plug through, because you don't want to be removing it. I don't even know why I'm crying so much. Okay. Ignore my tears. That isn't... yeah, it didn't hurt as much as it looks. I don't know. Maybe my nose is being sensitive today. On to taping. So this is the method, the preferred method of choice. Okay, you take your jewelry and then you cut off a piece of tape. When I say tape, don't get like scotch tape or electrical tape or duct tape. Don't use those. Use a non-adhesive tape, which means it's a tape that adheres to itself, so it has no like glue on it, because glue will fuck shit up. And so you can use PTFE tape, which is plumber's tape, and you can get that for like $2 a roll at a hardware store. Although a lot of people do have allergic reactions to it, so you should be careful. My preferred tape of choice is bondage tape. Bondage tape is hypoallergenic because it's made for the skin. And bondage tape is thicker than PTFE tape is. And I've noticed that bondage tape is about 0.5 millimeter for each wrap. And so, like, you know, from there it's like easy math. Like, you know, 2 wraps will equal 1 millimeter. So if you're stretching like 1 millimeter, then 2 wraps and you're good. So what you do is you cut off a piece of tape and wrap it around your plug and, like, you know, lube everything up, then insert it. It shouldn't even feel like a stretch. It should feel like you're just inserting your plug after taking it out, because it's a very gradual way of stretching, which is why it's a preferred method. Because remember, with tapers, you're stretching like a lot at a time. Whereas with tape, you're stretching very gradually, and the diameter of your jewelry will start increasing, and so it will eventually stretch your lobes. This plug is 5/8, and it's currently on its way to 3/4. This year is already 3/4. My nice glow-in-the-dark plug. And so, as you can see, it's already covered in tape. Well, don't know if you can see that, but whatever. And so, okay. My end fell off there. That's awkward. Okay, so here's my tape, nice and cut. And so I'm going to wrap this around my plug. There's actually almost 3/4 already. Okay, so after you have it all nice and wrapped and pretty full, then you take your oil, or whatever you're using to lube it up. And for lube, you can use vitamin E oil, you can use jojoba oil, you can use olive oil. You can a lot of people just use like a water-based lubricant, like for banging and stuff, so you can use that. So here's my earlobe. As you can see, it's not actually looks pretty nice right now. Huh. And so just run it through, lube it up a bit, and don't forget to lube up your jewelry so it goes in nice and smooth like. Okay. And then you just insert it and you're done. And then you should do that about every 3 days. Me personally, I wait longer just because I forget. So, you know, about 3 days you should, you know, add a new layer of tape. Okay, when you're done stretching, you should take up daily vitamin E oil massages, or jojoba oil, or emu oil, or holy butter, or your choice of massagingness. And so, like, you know, I choose vitamin E oil. And so, like, you know, just get some on your fingers, just start massaging your earlobe for maybe like 10 minutes a day. And that'll start breaking up any of the scar tissue that you have, because like I said earlier, I have a lot of scar tissue from using tapers back when I was first stretching, because I was like 13 and didn't know what I was doing. And so that'll break up any of the scar tissue. Like, you saw my earlobe, like before it was nasty, but because I've been doing my earlobe massages, it looks a lot better. I think I pretty much covered all the bases here, And so I think I'm going to stop here. Hopefully this isn't terribly long. It says it's like 17 minutes, so I'm probably going to edit this. And yeah, disregard my crying, really. I have to iterate the fact that it was not bad. I just probably, I don't even know why I was crying, okay? Just get over it, God. Okay, I'll shut up now because I ramble just so much. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned something, and I hope you stretch properly from now on. And yeah, so, bye!